Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our AFL 2022 3-game match reviews. Now in today's video, it is another big one with another big 3 games of the AFL 2022 season from round 9. So these 3 games are some massive games as well, some big matchups. And of course, to see where some teams are at as well, we did learn quite a bit as per normal. So we had, so in today's match reviews, we've got St Kilda vs Geelong at Marvel Stadium, Sydney vs Essendon at SCG, and Adelaide vs Brisbane at Adelaide Oval. These were the twilight and the night's game from Saturday. So St Kilda vs Geelong, let's get right into things. So St Kilda vs Geelong was an absolute ripper. 4:35 local time. St Kilda 13-12-9 to get over the Cats. 11-14-18. The Cats, they go 5-4, and the Saints go 6-3, and that is big for them for their season. Really, the Saints, they haven't been in the greatest of stages in the last few games. Of course, losing to Port Adelaide, oh, there was another team in there. I forgot who it was though. But yeah, losing to Port Adelaide, another team. Oh, and Melbourne. Yes, they have been some of the better teams, but they really bounced back against Geelong. They were great in this game, and it was the third quarter where it all started. Otherwise, I reckon the Cats would have walked home with this game. So the first quarter was dominated by the Cats. They had a little bit of a jump skip on the Saints after the first. Both teams actually got 2 goals. Both teams got a goal in the first 2 minutes of the game as well. So it showed that we were in for a pretty good game. And second quarter, not really a lot happened either. Again, though, the Cats just having that quarter. Third quarter, though, was when the game changed around. And the Cats, they got out to a 20-point lead in the third quarter. And the Saints kicked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals in a row. And 7 for the term to bring the game back. And that is how they take the front, and then they go on to win the game from there. The Cats, they do try in the final term. They come back to a spot where it's like 4 points of difference or something around that. But then the margin settles at 10. And the Saints pull off an epic win, and they needed this win. 36 disposals for Brad Crouch, 4 goals for Hawkins, 125 fantasy for Crouch, 7 tackles for Crouch. Crouch was pretty good, but this game for St Kilda was big. They needed to win a game very soon, and they did. Paddy Ryder, what a game he had as well. AFL fantasy will start with that. So Brad Crouch, 125, 110 for Sinclair. Sinclair's pretty good as well. 106 for Stewart, 102 for Gresham, and 100 for Tui. Now, goals behind. 4 goals for Ryder, 4 goals for Hawkins, 3 goals for Ryder, 2 for Membry, King, and Tui. And then Cameron, 1 goal, 2. Stengel, 1 goal, 2. Not ideal afternoons for them, who would have liked to have tried and hit the scoreboard a little bit more. Disposed, 36 for Crouch, 31 for Sinclair, 30 for Gresham. Those are the players that scored above 30, got above 30 disposals. Now on to marks. 9 for Sinclair, 9 for Stewart, 8 for Billings, the Battle, Duncan and Cameron. Now tackles. 7 for Marshall, Crouch, Guthrie and Blitzarves. There was lots of players that got on that number. Now the hitouts. 22 for Ryder, 18 for Blitzarves, 17 for Marshall, 13 for Stanley, 6 for Hawkins. But again, the Saints, that this was a good game for them. This was the game that they really need to bounce back, and they were a chance in this game, and they win it. They were not the favourites, and they come out and produce that, and that is big for their season as well. They were sitting in 8th, but that makes them jump skip the Cats, and I'll show you guys the ladder after. But yeah, what a big game. Inside 50s were locked. It was such a tight battle, all that for the entirety of the contest. Hitouts, clearances slightly in St Kilda's favour as well. But yeah, most of these stats are pretty close. Geelong did lead for the majority of the game, and the biggest margin of the game was 22 points, so it never went too out of hand for either team. But wow, this was a fantastic game. The Cats, probably inaccuracy does cost them though, is what you could say. 13-12 compared to 11-14. But again, look, the Saints, they needed a win, and this is a big win, and it's against a great team as well. And this is a real confidence booster for them. Now on to Sydney versus Essendon. There isn't really a lot to say about this one. Sydney win by 58 points, 14-21, 105 to 6-11, 47. And this is one of the most inaccurate performances we've seen this year for Sydney, scoring 14-21. Now, this should have been a big win for the Swans. 14-21 is not great. Yes, they win, but there's still got to be a little bit of criticism about it. I bet there will still be. They could have won by more than this margin, by 58, just because of their inaccuracy. 14-21. Now, that's not a normal score that you see in a game of footy either, 14-21. So, again, just little things to fix up there. Inaccuracy will cost eventually. If it doesn't get you 1 week, it'll get you the next. And that's exactly what happened for the Western Bulldogs, who learnt that earlier in the year against Richmond. They were inaccurate against Sydney. They beat them, but then they go and play Richmond and they lose. So inaccuracy will cost. So whether that happens next week for Sydney, not sure just yet. So that is something that they want to fix up for sure. But yeah, they had to jump this entire game, and it wasn't a great game to watch at all. Didn't watch it though. 5 goals, 5 to 2 goals 3 in the first term, and it just set it up. Second term was pretty much over. The Bombers never even tried in this game, really. It was 66-28 at half time. And yeah, the Swans just kept on going, which this is a big performance for them. They lost to the Suns last week, and the Bombers are coming off of a win. So now that's a loss for the Bombers. And for the Swans, this is big. This is what they needed. They needed to come back to a fast-starting team. That's exactly what they did, and they've pretty much fixed their season, I would say. Like, they were just in a little bit of a spot of a bother. They were in a little bit of a spot of a bother, losing to Brisbane and then to Gold Coast. This was a comforting win that they needed. So now, 32 disposals for Chad Warner, 2 goals for Franklin, 156 fancy for Mills, 13 tackles for Mills. The Swans, this was a big game for them. They responded and could have won this game by more. Look at that. Look at that. 156 fantasy for Mills, 109 for Papley, 109 for Warner, 108 for Goulden, 102 for Lloyd, 95 Parker, 93 Blakey. The highest Essendon play was 87 for Parrish and 78 for McGrath. Rowbottom gets 85, 78 for Franklin as well. Now goals behinds, 2 goals 4 for Franklin. A little bit inaccurate, 2 goals 3 for Papley, a little bit inaccurate as well. But again, they're still taking the 4 points, so that's the main thing for the Sydney Swans. 2 goals 2 for Hayward, 2 goals for Wicks, 2 goals for Wright. Who was inaccurate? Let's see who was inaccurate. There was a lot of players that just scored like 0-1. They all contributed to... both teams were inaccurate anyway. Disposals, 32 for Warner, 31 for Parrish. His usual self, pretty much, but only laying the 1 tackle. 29 disposals for Mills, 26 for Blakey, Goulden, 24 for Lloyd, 23 for Parker and Heppel. But again, not great there for the Bombers. 10 marks for Papley and Reid, 8 for McCartan. Tackles, 13 for Mills, 5 for Bell, 5 for Heaney, 5 for Perkins. He laid the most tackles for Essendon. Did Archie Perkins with the 5. And then 4 more for Rowbottom and Lloyd. So we'll go to some team stats now. And disposals and inside 50s were dominated. Well, not necessarily dominated, but in Sydney's form to a bit of an extent. Sydney went inside 50 11 more times than the Bombers. And then we'll have a look. Hit-outs and clearances were relatively even as well, though. But again, the Swans, they are such a classy team that, yeah, they didn't lose this game. And rightly so, they shouldn't have lost this game, and they didn't. Big winners in the end. And... This is a real confident, comfortable and convincing win for Sydney, who are right back to their very good old selves. So the Adelaide Oval now for Adelaide up against Brisbane. Adelaide 9-12-66 failed the task of Brisbane 16-6 102. And Adelaide actually competed in this game though for majority, for the first half actually. The first quarter was Brisbane. They did win that quarter though. Second quarter was all Adelaide. It was all one-way traffic pretty much. The Lions still did get 2 goals, but Adelaide were just a better team in that second quarter. And yeah, they were good, the Crows, in the second quarter. They really brought it back. There was plenty of highlights from this one for both teams. There was some really classy goals in this game. But the thing with Brisbane, though, they excelled in the third and the fourth quarter. And Adelaide scored 18 in the final 2 quarters. The thing about Brisbane, though, is that whether it's your midfielders, your key forwards, or your small forwards, they can all kick goals. And that is what makes them one of the best teams in the competition. And that is what they score so heavily. They score so well. And that is why Melbourne don't necessarily have that. They are good defensively, Melbourne, but again, this is like Brisbane. They can pile on the scores. Brisbane pile on the scores, and it's not just the same players. Anyone can get involved for the Brisbane scoring, which is fantastic, and that's what makes them so hard to play against. And they could be 9-0 as well if they hadn't have lost to Geelong back in round 4. 36 disposals for Lockie Neal, 4 goals for Charlie Cameron. He was what really did blow the game open apart. Rory Laird, 124 fantasy, 13 tackles for Sam Berry. The Crows, they brought the pressure for the first 2 halves, but yeah, after half time they were gone. And Brisbane, all they need to do is just have a few good moments and they can, really bang it on. And the third quarter is where the pain was banged on. And then they just finished off the job in the final term. Laird, 124 fantasy, 115 for Neal, 112 for Zorko, 107 for McInerney, 101 for Dawson and Lyons, 98 for Haitley, 94 for McAdam, 92 for Keys, his busy self as well. 4 goals for Charlie Cameron. McAdam, though, led the goal-kicking tally for Adelaide with 3 goals, 1. Bailey, 3 goals as well. Ned McHenry, Dane Zorko, both with the 2 goals. Walker was 1 goal, 4, so he was a little bit inaccurate, as the Crows were a little bit inaccurate as well. Lockie Neal, 36 disposals. He and the goal, he is doing so well. Rory Laird, 33 disposals, 27 for Haitley and Keys, 26 for Rich and Zorko, and then 24 for Dawson. He does well, racking up the disposals as well. 8 marks for Andrews and Adams, 7 for McAdam, Dawson, Duday, Neal and Caden Coleman. Tackles, 13 for Berry, 10 for Laird. So the top 2 tacklers were on Adelaide's side by actually a fair way, because the next was 7 for Lyons and McInerney. Hitouts now 40 for McInerney, 21 for Strawn, 19 for Fort, 10 for Himmelberg, 3 for Walker. Adelaide, they did make the massive change. They made 7 changes as well, so they were a different team as well. Inside 50s were relatively tight, but Brisbane were making the most when they went inside. Adelaide, not so much. And then, is there anything else that's looking appealing? Not really too much. Brisbane did win the hitouts. Anything else? Not really. I don't see anything else that's really that appealing. Brisbane did lead for the majority of the game, however. Their biggest lead was 44. And the same thing happened pretty much last year as well. Adelaide's biggest lead was 15. They just started to bring it back in half-time, lose a little bit of lack of discipline pretty much. They just started giving away unnecessary free kicks pretty much. But yeah, this is pretty much basically what happened last year. Adelaide fought for the first 2 quarters and then Brisbane just blew it away again. Brisbane is such a good team, though, that they are very hard to beat. So we'll go to the ladder now. Well, we'll go to the rest of the round, then the ladder. So, big games now. Fremantle may be able to go first if they win over the Suns. The Suns, though, they need to win this game as well. If they beat the Dockers, they'll be up and about. Giants and Blues, as I said, this is Leon Cameron's farewell game. So can he lead his team to a big win over a big team in Carlton? And what will Carlton be able to do? And then West Coast versus Melbourne. There's not really a lot to say about this game. But yeah, how big can Melbourne smash? Or can West Coast put anything up to the table? So Brisbane are first. If Fremantle win today, though, they will jump skip Brisbane, you would assume, if it's a big enough win. However, Melbourne, if they win, they'll go top. Otherwise, if they don't, they'll probably end up sliding down to third, just because of the percentage Brisbane and Freo have. Sydney currently sitting 4th with St Kilda red hot on their tails. Geelong go down all the way to 7th, who are tied on points with Richmond and with Richmond. Carlton's result today, though, they could go back into the top 4, and if Fremantle were to lose, to join them. And then Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, Collingwood, they're just 4 points away from Geelong and Richmond. Geelong and Port Adelaide shall clash next round, so that could be a big one. And then Hawthorn, Gold Coast and Adelaide are on 12. Depending on what Gold Coast do today, they could join Collingwood, Port Adelaide and Western Bulldogs on 16. And depending on how much they win by, they could overtake Collingwood if they get a big enough win. GWS, they could join 12 as well. And then they'll probably jump skip the Crows if they were to do so. And nothing else is that great. If West Coast were to pull off a fantastic win, which is probably not, not going to happen. They will go and join Essendon on 8 points and Giants, depending on their result. So there's some big games coming up for the rest of the rounds. Now to round 10, we've got Carlton versus Sydney to open it. That is a big game. That's going to be exciting, that one. Bulldogs versus Suns. Could be closer than what we all think, but again, I wouldn't say so. Geelong versus Port Adelaide, that is secretly a big game, but Geelong do play well at DMHBA. North versus Melbourne, nothing to say about that. Adelaide versus St Kilda. Can Adelaide fight? But the Saints, they're right back on track. Richmond versus Essendon, dream time at the G. GWS versus West Coast. Again, not really a lot to say about that. Hawthorn versus Brisbane. Wow, there's not really a lot to say about that one either. But what can the Hawks do? And Freo versus Collingwood, who will get the win in the West. So that is going to be it for today's match reviews. That is how the rounders look so far. But thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so then you guys will never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. So bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.